Quest is live and available to everyone to try right now. So anybody who has access to the ESO base game can jump in and play this prologue quest. And on top of that, ESO is running a free play event right now, so anyone can jump in and try this content today. So some of you may be asking yourself, what is a prologue quest? I know all of you know, but some people watching the stream may be curious.
Tell us.
So I am going to, I plan to. So this is essentially a quest that prepares you for the chapter content. So you actually kick off the Necrom story arc ahead of it launching in June. So we'll talk a little bit more about this quest and its rewards a bit later in the stream. But first, I would like to introduce some new dev team members that are sitting here. First up, we have Tom Murphy, our zone lead.
Hi.
And the man who needs no introduction, our lead encounter designer, Mike Finnegan. So you both have had a hand in developing some of the community's favorite areas and DLCs.
Favorite.
What is one of your favorite memories from development?
It's a pretty hard question, but one that's very near and dear to my heart is actually a series of books that I wrote in the Greymoor release. So Greymoor, vampires, gothic drama, and somebody came up to my desk and was like, hey, we need a book about cheese. And I was like, well, I can give you 4 books about cheese, and that's Cheeses of Skyrim is my favorite contribution.
Fun fact about that, he also runs the cheese group at ZOS,
like
or
the
the
cheese
cheese club at
Yeah.
ZOS. So.
I'm the Ayatollah of Gorgonzola.
Ayatollah of Gorgonzola, yes.
Finn, what about you?
So I get asked this question all the time about what's my favorite dungeon trial or whatever. And it's like, I like to say it's like picking your favorite kid, and all parents know you absolutely have a favorite kid, but can't say what your favorite kid is. So I actually would rather like to ask you guys, what is your favorite dungeon trial arena? Red Sail Reef. I heard Ninja say Lair of Marsalok. A lot of good stuff. Look at that. Anytime I stay alive, that's good. It's all good. It's all good choices.
There's a healer there, right? So as we mentioned, players are returning to Morrowind this year, but in Necrom, we're actually going to be heading to the Telvanni Peninsula. Why did you all decide to tell this story in a different part of Morrowind, and what's kind of going on in this area?
Yeah, well, to harken back to something our illustrious lore master, Michael Zenke, said, House Telvanni was a really natural fit for the themes of the story we wanted to tell in the Necrom chapter. And it also really gave us a great opportunity to explore Morrowind and Dark Elf culture without really having the lens of the tribunal sort of on them. You know, House Telvanni maybe pays the most lip service compared to like the actual worshippers of the tribunal. And also Necrom as a city predates all of the tribunal worship. So it's just really fascinating stuff to explore when we did our quest content.
Yeah, for us it went back to sort of the Dunmer being a nice fit for Mias Mora. We knew we were going to go to Apocrypha. We knew we were going to do a lot of fun things with Apocrypha. You know, Morrowind and the Telvanni coast is very much that space in Elder Scrolls where it feels kind of alien, and it's, you know, it's one of our more weirder, you know, interesting areas. So it felt like a fit. It's less Red Mountain, Ashlander. It's a little more, you know, verdant and full of life. But it's always fun to go back to places that we know players have been before. We like to always give people the sense when we hit that nostalgia button, you're coming home, right? And then we smack you with Apocrypha and Cthulhu nonsense, right?
It's all about the mushrooms.
I love it.
That's really what it is. It's all about the mushrooms.
All the mushrooms.
Well, and it's an area that they haven't seen since Tesserina.
94?
It's
1994
94.
Arena? Yeah, wow.
I know that because that's what my note card said.
Don't give away the magic.
Well, when we say Morrowind, obviously there's things that make it immediately recognizable, like the giant mushrooms, alien landscape, the Nixox, for better or worse. So in what ways is the Telvanni Peninsula visually distinct from the rest of Morrowind that players have already experienced?
Yeah, I talked about it a little more verdant. I mean, we knew that the big thing this time we were going to get to go to Necrom. Haven't seen it since Arena, and obviously Arena in 1994, the tech just wasn't there to fully realize what Necrom could have been. But we had all that lore. We knew that it was sitting in the maybe desecrated carapace of a long dead
Like
semi-god that maybe Vivek threw down and maybe he didn't. We knew that the White Towers were going to be there, so we had all this great lore to jump off from, and that was probably the most. That was, we were going to be able to give people something they hadn't seen before.
Yeah. So we mentioned Apocrypha earlier. Can you explain a little bit more about what this area is all about?
Yeah, so Apocrypha, domain of Hermes Mora, all domains of a Daedric prince are kind of an extension of the prince themselves. So Hermes Mora is the prince of forbidden knowledge and fate, and these ideas are really just sort of suffused throughout Apocrypha, right? So he's the great miser of oblivion. He loves to extend his tentacles out into other planes and into Nirn and kind of ensnare as much lore and knowledge as he can and kind of drag it back into his moldering libraries and his like gross, inky seas. Ooh.
Sounds like a pleasant place
Yeah.
to visit.
It's a good vacation place, right? Yeah.
It was kind of daunting from the art side. We saw Apocrypha in Dragonborn, and it was really set out in sort of the blank, inky sea, right? And it was the cool platforms with the lacy stuff, unrolling and all that stuff. So we had in the books, so we had that basis to go from. But we're making an Elder Scrolls game, an Elder Scrolls Online game. We have to give people in Overland, right? We have to have a hub town. We have to do the things that give everybody the things they need to play the chapter. And so we had to start thinking about, well, what is a god who likes to collect all things collectible? And you talked about maybe even like literally pulling in pieces of Nirn, right? Because he's cataloging everything, and what shapes and what sort of ideas make that up. And somebody hit upon the idea of fossils embedded into the very rocks themselves. And we knew we wanted to match Morrowind's crazy alien environments, so the artists got to just go pure imagination and go crazy, and you'll see it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and like we did with the Deadlands DLC. So Deadlands was a space that everybody knows. If you play TS4 Oblivion, you know that's like this red hellscape with fire and everything. But then we were able to say, well, what does destruction mean? And we had the Stormlands, which were a little bit different. They looked a little bit different. Apocrypha was kind of the same way, where we are able to take what they did in Dragonborn DLC and then really build upon that and put our own stamp on it and make it look kind of like unique in our game.
One of the things I really like, and you just saw it in the video up here, is the usage of books as part of the architecture.
We were a little worried about that. We worry about metrics, and when you have a zone that's like billions of books stacked everywhere, you got to get through it, but we got through it.
No, it looks amazing. So one of the things that, of course, brings a zone to life is the monsters. And Morrowind certainly doesn't have a shortage of just weird and strange creatures. So what are some of the general themes and the approach to the creatures that players are going to be coming across in Necrom?
Yeah, so we went with cosmic horror was the big thing, but also we went back to what players have experienced in the Dragonborn DLC. You've seen the lurkers, you've seen the you've seen the lurkers, and you've seen the seekers, and we were going to take those and largely build on what they did and then make sure it fits in our game with all the abilities. But then we were able to build completely new things, and what you see right here is this is the hushed. These are like people that have gone a little bit too far in their worship. They don't have mouths, they're almost like zombie-like. And then this guy right here, which is the Mind Terror. So these guys operate completely different or a little bit different than what you're used to with monsters. Their attacks almost seem like 1940s like horror films. They're stop motion. They fade in and out.
As you can tell by the expression on Gina's face, she really loves the Mind Terror.
Loves the Mind
Seal of
Terror.
approval.
Loves the Mind Terror.
We literally were thinking about Gina when we were making this.
yeah.
Gina's not going to like this one.
Like
It's got more than 4 legs. Gina's not going to She's not going to like it. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Tome Shell. The Tome Shell is this. There you go.
There he is.
It's this little books that have creatures that are inside them, and they inhabit them and go around. So they're little creatures you're going to see throughout Apocrypha. There's the lurker. So like I said, you've seen some of these things in the Dragonborn DLC, and we kind of like fleshed them out how they'll fit in our game. He's pretty.
Yeah. Always lurking.
Always lurking.
Yeah.
There's Tome Shell.
Yeah.
They're adorable. I
Little
know,
buddy.
right?
The story of the Tome Shell is great because it was so organic. It was just someone saying, well, what would a hermit crab in a Apocrypha
In a
look
pocket.
like?
It's exactly right. It's exactly right.
I'm sure that won't happen.
Thought the Nick socks were bad, and then you introduced these things.
Love the Nick Soxes.
Well, thankfully, we have a host of great characters in our chapters. So let's talk about some of the characters that players are going to be coming across in Necrom.
Yeah, so I feel like the best releases we do are ones that give players a motley crew of allies, right? So our goals for Necrom were to go like big and weird with the people that you're going to be spending time with. The first one I'll mention is Laramel the Wise. It's kind of your main ally in the task that Hermaeus Mora sets before you. She is an arcanist. She is not like a cultist of Hermaeus Mora. She's made a bargain with him for certain powers, and he's calling in his part of his due, basically. She can
Subcontractor.
Yeah. She can see threads of fate, which is an extremely rare and valuable gift for followers of, or people that are in Hermaeus Mora's sphere, and that's sort of your main interaction with her, is helping find where these threads of fate are going and how they point to the various villains that are at play. The other one I'll mention is Meln the Mouthless, who is this weird character that I just created to kind of embody the Telvanni Peninsula. He's the ghost of a magister. He's kind of a grumpy old man that talks like this.
Kind of like Finn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, only likable.
That's fair. That's fair.
He's like, oh, my lumbago. But he's actually a ghost that lives in a soul gem that you keep in your pocket. And the idea is very similar to a character that I wrote for the Deadlands, Aerox the Mutilator. Just like,
Have you heard of him? I thought you might have heard of him.
You just love to narratively be in people's ears
I
as
do.
they run around.
If I could, I would
The
just sit
disembodied
behind
voice.
somebody playing the game. I'd be like, oh, look at that. There's a
You're
dragon.
gonna hear this. You're gonna hear this.
You meet Meln pretty early in main quest, and the moment you meet Meln is one of my favorites from it's. I won't spoil it, but it's very funny. I
Yeah.
loved it. Yeah.
He's great. There's so many great characters. I don't want to spoil any more, but there's also not just new characters, there's returning ones. So, yeah, Naryu's coming back.
There you go.
Maybe you heard of her.
Yeah.
And a personal favorite of mine, Sotha Sil, will be making an appearance. And for the rest, we'll just have to play and see.
Yeah.
Well, we also, I'm speechless here.
So
We announced that we're going to be adding 2 new companions as well with the launch of Necrom. So for those that may not know, companions are essentially like adventuring buddies in ESO that you can kind of call upon when you need a hand in combat. You can summon them anytime. They fight alongside you, and you can also choose their gear, their abilities. They have a whole personality. There's a rapport system, so they're a super robust system. We have a few existing companions already, but the newest companions coming to Necrom are Sharp and Xander. So Tom, can you talk a little bit more about their personalities and where players are going to find them?
Of course. So we wanted to do something a little bit different, keep things fresh compared to our previous companions. So Sharp and Xander are both a little bit more worldly. They're a little bit older. Sharp is our Argonian warden. He is a tough-as-nails bounty hunter. His life has been shaped by sort of the Telvanni Peninsula and all the hard jobs he's had to pull. Xander is our kind of crazy arcanist who's been in Apocrypha maybe just a little too long, but he's this bombastic and brilliant mage who needs help plumbing the depths of reality.
Well, just like with the companion system, we are making updates to some other existing systems as well. So there's going to be a new patron deck coming to Tales of Tribute called Almalexia.
Yeah.
And of course, there's going to be some new antiquities rewards that you'll be able to find in the Necrom zone. So we should talk about the last place that players are going to be able to explore, and it's that new region called Chroma Incognito. So Tom, what is this new zone in Apocrypha?
Yeah, so it's a wholly original creation that we made for the Necrom release. We knew that we wanted to do 2 things with this new region, right? We wanted to kind of maintain the themes and stylings of Apocrypha, but also create like a really stark contrast, a vivid contrast to the bleak libraries that I think people all know when they think of Apocrypha. And vivid contrast ended up being quite literal. We had a lot of really weird ideas about where this could have gone, and we ended up all coalescing around like alien, shimmering color. You know,
We didn't want to do a monochromatic zone. You know, sometimes Oblivion planes can be like, it makes sense in Cold Harbor. It's a hellscape.
Yeah.
You know, it's oppressive by nature. But we didn't want Hermaeus Mora's realm to feel oppressive in that way, right? Like it's a physicalization of someone who's collecting all things collectible, as I said earlier, and why not put color into that, right? Why not give the eye places to go and colors to see?
yeah, and it also is where we kind of really play with the idea of what is a library without books, right? Like Hermaeus Mora is cataloging knowledge doesn't necessarily mean that he's literally only looking at things that are words on a page, right? So like, what is the Apocrypha version of microfiche, you know?
I'm sorry, what?
What is the Apocrypha version of microfiche?
It's a small fish. It's a small fish, dude. It's a small fish.
Microfiche. It's like,
Some
really
people
small
know what
fish.
she's talking
it's
about.
like fiche, but micro.
Fish with micro.
Right. You all know what microfiche is? I'm sure there's somebody in Twitch chat that hasn't heard of it.
Yeah, Chroma Incognito is kind of like the deadly children's section of like the library or something. It's colorful walls and stuff like that, but it can kill you.
Fair enough. Sounds about right for World of Tamriel, right? Well, I'm sure some of you are wondering, so I'm going to be the one to ask. What is the story behind the name?
Well, it sounds cool, right? And
Really cool.
yeah, maybe Chroma is Greek and maybe Incognito is Latin and maybe it should properly be Incognita, but you know, it sounds cool, right?
Well, a god who's studied all languages would pull from all languages.
Yeah, Hermaeus Mora doesn't care if you're a classics major.
Sure, right.
Go with that.
Well, one of the things we briefly mentioned in January are these new world events that we're going to be adding in Necrom. Before we get into details, though, for maybe some folks watching on the stream that aren't familiar with what world events are, Finn, why don't you explain what makes these so special?
Yeah, so world events are a chance in Overland content for us to get some organic grouping together. So get players that are kind of exploring the zone to see a big, cool thing and then go meet up with their friends and kill it. So that's pretty much the gist of what world events are.
All right, well, let's talk more about these new world events that are in Necrom. They are called Bastion Nimic.
Yeah, so Bastion Nimic is a fortress in Apocrypha. Nimics are, as we all know,
Of course.
the true names of Daedra. If you know a Daedra's Nimic, you get control over them. This is where Hermaeus Mora just was like, hey, I should keep all my Nimics together in one place. And then some malevolent forces who are also at play in the main quest saw that and decided they wanted to steal those Nimics and try to amass that power for themselves. Hermaeus Mora's gaze is spread a little thin in the Necrom release, so he's put out an APB for players to help come to Bastion Nimic, drive out these invaders, and restore peace. And the rewards are great for those who can help them out.
Yeah. We did something a little bit different for this. So if you guys remember the Oblivion portals, you went in and it was kind of a public dungeon type zone where everybody can kind of go into it. This is the first time for a world event that we're actually going to use 4-player instances. So you're going to be able to go out. It's also quest driven, so you'll get a daily quest, which will allow you to get the things you need in order to access this place. Then you can either go in solo or go in with friends, up to 4 players, and kind of explore this. It's almost like a dungeon. You can explore this area and kind of get fat loots.
Well, I don't know about you all, but I am looking forward to checking this out because I love that kind of stuff. So while we're talking about group content, we should also discuss the new trial, which is...
There they are.
Well, all right.
So this is our content that's designed for 12 players.
Yes. Yeah, we range in difficulty from normal to try hard. So for those players that want to go in there and It's a more casual kind of experience. They can go in there with 11 friends and tackle some of these challenges. And then if you really want to push the limits, you can go to veteran or even hard modes and really push for the top of the leaderboards and stuff.
Well, the new trial is called Sanity's Edge. Finn, why don't you give everyone a little preview of what they can expect here?
Yeah, so
Hype it up, Finn.
yeah. So Sanity's Edge is most of the time when we do a trial, it's a physical location in the world. You go to a physical space. So for this one, it's a little bit different. Some mage has decided to study a Daedric artifact, and he didn't do it with the normal precautions. So he unleashed a malevolent creature into his mind, and now you are going to bring 11 of your friends into his mind in order to free him from the torment that he has. You're seeing some things on screen here that you may recognize some of the places you go, because you're basically exploring his dreams and his nightmares as you go through this. So you may see some familiar areas that from other parts of the game.
You know, my psychiatrist recommended I have 12 Elder Scrolls players.
Yeah,
kind of go in my brain.
It's catching steam. It's like that's the new diagnosis.
Thank God
now.
my insurance covered it.
Yeah. It's very rarely covered.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we can't talk about the trial without talking about some of the rewards. So for those of you who complete all the trial achievements, and yes, that includes the no-death speedrun hard mode, you will earn yourself a brand new mount. This is the Dark Ram mount. So if you see players running around on this mount, you'll know they have completed some of the hardest content that we have in the game.
There we go.
Now, we actually have another mount that you'll be able to earn in the zone by completing several key achievements throughout Necrom. This is going to be a brand new Nixox.
Your favorite.
We like to call this one the Gina Bruno.
The Gina
This is
Bruno.
special, right?
Come on, Gina, it glows underneath. Look how cute that is. Come on, don't you want to ride that sucker?
I can't
Smile
wait
at
to see a whole bunch of those running around all over the place. Well, I want to give a huge thank you to Finn, to Tom, to CJ for giving us such a great preview of all the upcoming content.
Every time.
I say it every day.
Every day.
So don't forget, this does release June 5th for PC and Mac and June 20th for consoles, and it's coming to PTS on Monday.
Woo.
Yeah.
So we had a great time chatting with everyone today. It has been such a pleasure to be back in person in Las Vegas with everybody. This was
It's
a
so
really
great.
fun story.
So awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Yeah.
Now, before we wrap up, I do want to hand it over to my friends Jess and Amy, who are going to be sharing some more details about the quality of life updates coming to Update 38.
Thanks, Gina. So we've heard a lot about Necrom today. We're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about some of the additional things happening now and coming to ESO with Update 38, the base game update that is free to all ESO players.
Yeah, so coming with Update 38, we'll be introducing some new features to help you stay better organized. First, you'll be able to favorite some of the collectibles you've earned in-game. You can designate your favorite mounts from your collection, and anytime you summon up your mount, a random one from your favorites list will appear. Yeah. Furnishing bundles from the Crown Store will now also automatically be put into containers, taking up just one space in your inventory. I know, yeah. So you can take those items out and organize at your leisure. And get excited, anglers. Filleting fish just got a whole lot easier. You will now be able to use any provisioning station to fillet all those stacks of fish with a single action.
We'd also like to talk about a few things that are either happening now, just happened, or are soon to be upcoming. So first off, in our ongoing work to consolidate when daily and weekly timers reset in ESO, campaigns and monthly leaderboards for Cyrodiil and Tales of Tribute will reset on the first of the month at the daily reset time with the launch of Update 38. Also, sharing Hircine's gift for werewolf lycanthropy and noxophilic sanguivora for vampirism will change from a 7-day timer or 7-day cooldown to be on the weekly reset with the launch of Update 38. Yeah, you either love her or you hate her, Stuga. Stuga will no longer relentlessly follow you with the launch of Update 38. She's now going to be stationary near certain taverns in Daggerfall, Davin's Watch, and Volkelgard. She will still try to flag you down, but she'll no longer chase you, and her greeting line will only play when you're within certain proximity of her. And then, as with all of our major updates, we'll have some new player houses available. The first is an in-room called Journey's End Lodgings. There's also a large house called Emissaries Enclave. And then, saving the best for last, the Fair Winds. This is a player house that is something we've never done before, yes. It is a literal moving ship. So the islands and terrain do move in the distance, so it looks like the ship is moving through the water while you're on it. If you fall off, the current will sweep you away from the ship, so watch your step. And the view from the crow's nest is amazing, not to be missed. See if you can spot some ornogs playing in the waves in the distance. This is one player house you're not going to want to miss out on. It will come out sometime after the launch of Necrom, but you can check it out on the PTS along with the other two starting next week. And then we'd also like to tell you about a few other things, including Scribes of Fate launch, in case you missed it. Did launch last month. This came with 2 new dungeons, Belsonar and Scrivener's Hall, complete with, I like this guy. Complete with new challenges and rewards and the start of the Shadow over Morrowind storyline. As Gina mentioned earlier in the stream, the Necrom Prologue questline did release today. This is free content available to all ESO players. When you complete the Necrom Prologue questline, you can get your very own ancient relic of Hermaeus Mora, the unstable emerald glyphic memento.
We also have several upcoming in-game events. So as many of you know, ESO just turned 9. Yeah. So log in and help us celebrate with some birthday fun during our anniversary Jubilee event, which is happening in-game now until April 18th. And during this event, you'll be able to unlock this year's unique tentacular Jubilee cake. And starting next week, you'll be able to get an early look at Update 38 and the Necrom chapter on PTS, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, which goes live on April 17th. And then next month, we'll be kicking off our White Strakes Mayhem, our first one of the year. Yeah. Followed by our second encore White Strakes Mayhem event in June. So be on the lookout for more details about that event and this year's rewards.
We'd also like to share an update on our ongoing hardware refresh efforts. As many of you are aware, we've been hard at work refreshing all the hardware in our data centers to ensure our players can enjoy ESO for many years to come. We finished the PC North America server work last year, and PC European server work just completed last week. The community's feedback has been phenomenal so far. We will complete the PlayStation EU work next week, and then Xbox North America and PlayStation North America work will be completed in May, and the Xbox EU server work will be done later this year. So please see our post on the official ESO forums for more information.
From the lush Telvanni Peninsula to the endless library of Apocrypha, we've given you an inside look at what lies ahead with Necrom. The Elder Scrolls Online Necrom chapter arrives June 5th for PC and Mac, and June 20th for Xbox and PlayStation. If you pre-purchase the chapter, you'll receive the Sadrith Morris Spore Steed mount, and if you pre-purchase before April 18th, you'll also receive the matching Sadrith Morris Spore Pony Pet, so don't miss out on your last chance to receive both of those things. Our free play event is also happening now until April 17th, so if you're new to ESO or if you have a friend who's also looking to start their journey in Tamriel, you can jump in game for free right now to get started.
Our latest gifting promotion is also happening now until April 13th. When you gift 5 event tickets to other players in-game, you can get 4 Rage-bound Crown Crates by May 31st. We also have a number of sales going on now, of course we do, that you can take advantage of. They include the base game and High Isle chapter and crown packs. You can check our handy sales article on the official ESO site or your favorite platform store for details.
Thank you so much to our host Gina, to Matt, Rich, and to all of our developers who shared their experience working on Necrom today. For everybody here with us in person today, stick around. We have a lot more in store for you. And for everybody watching at home from around the globe, thank you so much for joining us today. You can follow along on our official social channels for more coverage of the ESO celebration and all things Necrom. And until next time, we'll see you in Tamriel.
go to sleep.